In retrospect, it's pretty amazing that Barack Obama got as far as he did. In 2004, the summer of 2004, Barack Obama gave a keynote address to the Democratic Convention in Boston. And when he walked to the podium, probably only a small percentage of people in the room knew how to pronounce his name. He was totally unheard of. No one knew Barack Obama. At the time, he was a state senator in Illinois. 4 years later, he once again spoke to the Democratic Convention, but this time as the nominee. Meteoric doesn't begin to describe it. How did this happen? Well, the outlines are fairly well known, though rarely talked about. A small group of Democratic donors, mostly in Chicago, decided that Barack Obama was their guy. He was the vessel for their ambitions. They paid for his campaign. They paved the way for his rise. He spent 2 years pointlessly in the United States Senate preparing to run for president in 2008, and of course, in the end, he won. But the question was, who was this man? Where did he come from? What did he spend his life doing before he became president of the United States? Well, the news media, whose job it is to answer those questions, spent the entire 2008 campaign trying to keep you from knowing the answers. By election day, most Americans knew only one thing about Barack Obama. Other than he was handsome and a good communicator. Hope and change. But they knew nothing about him, his origins, what he believed, and legitimate questions about those facts were turned away, as they often are, with the claim, "That's a conspiracy theory, you're crazy, shut up!" One of the most interesting moments in the 2008 campaign occurred when a man, like Obama himself, came from out of nowhere to recount his experiences with Barack Obama. His name was Larry Sinclair, and he told an amazing story. He said that in 1999, he had encountered Barack Obama in Illinois, had sex with Barack Obama, and then used cocaine with him. Sinclair went on to make these claims publicly at the National Press Club in Washington, to sign a sworn affidavit, and to take a lie detector test. But he was dismissed. In fact, he was attacked. Obama shills like Ben Smith at Politico batted the claims out without refuting them. They're absurd. And the rest of the media followed suit. But the claims weren't absurd. We're not claiming they're true, but they were certainly credible. This was a first-hand account of Barack Obama's behavior by someone who's willing to sign sworn affidavits to that effect. So the question is, whatever happened to Larry Sinclair? What's his life been like since? That's an interesting story. It turns out Larry Sinclair is still alive. He lives in Mexico. But today, he's in our studio. We're happy to have him. Larry Sinclair, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Where did you meet Barack Obama?
It was by accident. I was in the Chicago area in '99 for Lee Duke's graduation from the Naval Academy.
Who's Lee Duke?
He's basically my godson. I had hired a limousine service.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you live in Chicago then?
No. I was actually living in Colorado. I had flown in the night before.
Okay.
So, had hired a limousine service, had made the driver aware that if Lee couldn't leave the base, because once they graduate, some of them actually get their assignments and they're shipping out and they can't leave the base, that I was still interested in going out. And had asked the driver if he knew anybody that was available that might want to show me, Chicago. And he said he did. So
who was the driver?
His name was Jameer Multani. It was with 5-star limo.
So you're just a guy who's in town for the night, and it sounds like you're looking to party, actually.
Yeah.
That's what you were really
Yeah. Well, I was in town for a few nights, but yeah, I was definitely looking to party. And
did you make that clear to the driver?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was no misunderstanding.
How direct were you?
Extremely. Extremely.
Okay.
Yeah. There was no doubt what I was looking for.
Okay.
And he picked me up at my hotel in Gurnee and drove into Chicago, pulled up in a bar outside, and there's this guy that's introduced to me as Barack Obama. It was literally that casual.
Had you ever heard of him?
No.
Did the driver know him?
Yep. The driver definitely knew him because the driver said that he was a friend.
Interesting. How would the driver be friends with Barack Obama?
I only found out later, dealing read a reporter from Bloomberg News that apparently the limousine company had been doing business with Tony Resco, that at the time was somehow affiliated
Was
with
in
Barack
Obama's
Obama.
orbit.
Yeah.
Yes. Interesting. So he knew Barack Obama, and in his view, Barack Obama liked the same kind of party you were.
Yeah.
So sex and drugs.
And the sex part I wasn't so sure about until, of course, you know, you make your move, but it became obvious very quick. The coke part I thought was interesting because of the way that I had brought it up.
So I'm stepping in this. So you pull up, and I'm apologize. So you pull up to this bar. The driver is basically scouting some dude for you to hang out with.
Correct.
There's this guy, Barack Obama. Have you ever heard of Barack Obama?
Never. We're having drinks. I mentioned the fact that I could use something to wake up. I was extremely exhausted.
So you went into the bar.
Yes, sir.
What kind of bar was it?
I'm trying to remember. I've been trying to remember the name. I know that the glasses had 3 exits on them because I remember taking one home for a friend of mine.
What? But I mean, generally characterize it. Was it?
It was
class
up,
bar,
no,
gay
it was
bar, strip
upscale.
bar.
It was upscale, quiet. Wasn't really that that really didn't have a lot of energy to it. It was more relaxed, more like a lounge as opposed to somewhere where people would go and get loud and crazy.
Yeah.
Which made it easier to talk. But like I said, when I brought up the fact that I could use something to wake up, he immediately knew what I was referring to, and made it clear that I was looking for coke, and I really was, and had made the suggestion that he knew where we could get it, and we left to go get it.
Did you see what he did?
No, I had no idea that he was a representative in the White House. I had no idea he was in politics. I just knew that he was supposedly married and at the time was going to receive some business with the
Who said that?
That was made clear.
Did he say what kind of issues?
No.
So you said, I'm looking for someone to wake up. He knows you're referring to. I don't get it.
We get back in the limo. The driver takes us wherever it is. Barack can take us. I had given Barack $250 to pay for coke. He gets out, comes back. I start putting the line on a CD tray to snort.
And you're in the limo.
Yep.
Driving or parked?
No, the driver's driving.
Yep.
I start to put a line on a CD tray, and I just happen to notice that he pulls something else out of his pocket. And next thing I know, he's got a little pipe and he's smoking. So I don't have an issue with it. I mean, some people smoke, some people snort.
Smoking the cocaine?
Yes. So as I'm doing a line, I just start. This is the part where you kind of make your move to see where things are going. So I just started rubbing my hand along his thigh to see where it was going. It went the direction I had intended it to go. So the night became somewhat active sexually and drug-wise in the limo.
So you hit on it. Did he seem shocked by that?
Not at all.
Yeah. I mean, if you're smoking crack with a stranger in the back of the limo, like, you got to imagine things are going to go crazy places.
Well, not only imagine it, I look at it this way. I've done a lot of crazy things in my lifetime. I'm a pretty good judge of character. I pretty much know whether or not I can move in a certain direction with an individual. I didn't feel that I was going in the wrong direction. I just wasn't so sure how much I could trust the individual at first. And that was probably one of my bigger concerns. But the fact that I was already becoming somewhat buzzed, you kind of throw caution to the wind.
You weren't sure you could trust the individual, is that?
when you meet someone out of the blue and you go to a level that you do drugs with, or you're giving money to purchase drugs, or even for sexual activity, you have to be sure that you can trust them. And when I say trust them, that you're not going to end up being robbed, or that you're not going to end up having a knife stuck into you, from one direction to another, or that you're not going to pull up somewhere and all of a sudden the car door is going to open and you got 5 people pulling you out of it.
So
That's what I mean when I say trust them.
and you've been around at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Big time. Right. So probably not your first time in a situation.
Not at all, and that's why I said I pretty much know where I can go and
Yeah.
at what point.
So you start rubbing his leg, and I think I was totally blunt with you. Like a man who's not into gay sex would be like, "Whoa, so bad."
Trust me, if it was something that you were not interested in, and you're right, I've had guys that I read wrong that would literally try to break your hand.
For sure.
If you went in that route. So it's not like this was something that he wasn't into. It's not something that he was shocked by.
Yeah.
Shocked by, you don't get excited and you don't unbutton your pants and you don't just sit there and let it happen.
Yeah.
So it definitely wasn't Barack's first time. That much I'm absolutely certain of. And I would almost be willing to bet you it wasn't his last.
So you performed oral sex on Barack
I did.
Obama. You did. And the driver's up front?
Yep.
And he's cool with it.
The driver has the partition up. He didn't have a problem with it. He didn't put it down for any reason.
I mean, he kind of set up the whole thing for this in the first place.
Exactly. And I have a funny feeling he had no bones to pick with it as far as what took place.
Yeah. So what happened after?
Afterwards, I actually went back to my hotel. I had specifically asked that he drop Barack off first, but for some reason he and Barack chose that they would drop me off at the hotel first and then he would take Barack. So Barack actually made the drive out to Gurnee, which is a suburb outside of Chicago, to the hotel for me to be dropped off.
What hotel was it?
It was the Comfort Inn in Gurnee.
That sounds interesting.
Well, you have to remember it was 99.
Yeah. No,
And it was close to the Great Lakes Naval Facility.
yeah.
But I got dropped off. They left. The next day was somewhat interesting because he ends up showing up at my hotel room, which I thought was somewhat weird. But
He wanted to. So when you say he showed up,
he showed up. I mean, I had no warning. I was in the room. There's a knock on the door. I opened the door, and he's standing there. And he's standing there with more coat, and he comes in, and it was just like a quick, rehash or rerun from the night before.
the exact same program.
Exact same program.
Was he smoking?
Yeah.
So Barack Obama smokes crack, and then you perform it.
Yeah.
Sex.
And like I said, the only reason I had come out about it is I had reached out to the campaign even in 2007, only because I saw all these kids getting excited about it.
Okay, wait. So how did that end? Like,
Same way. So you get off, you finish smoking, you leave.
like, thanks, bye.
Mhm.
What did you think of it?
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was definitely a con. But,
What do you mean by that?
well, in my life at that point, you made it clear I had already been around.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So when people are doing things because they actually really enjoy it, or they're sincere, or they're looking, for
Yeah.
a connection, or they're doing something because they're looking for an in, or they're looking for a hook, or it's a game. So for me, I felt that it was a game for him. It was like, okay, what am I going to get out of it? Or is there something I can get out of it other than just, the sexual part? And lucky for me, I wasn't going back to Chicago anytime soon, so it really didn't matter.
So you were left with a bad taste.
Just something, yeah.
Did you talk to him again?
I did not. In fact,
And did you have any idea, even though you had sex with him twice, you did cocaine with him, watched him smoke crack twice, you had no idea who he was?
I had no idea who he was until I'm sitting in my house in Tequila, Nayarit, Mexico in 2004, and he walked on that stage
In Boston.
in the DNC convention, and I literally hit the floor. I just hit the floor and was,
Wait, so you're watching the Democratic Convention from Mexico,
I was
and the guy
laughing.
that smoked crack in your comfort inn with you,
I was laughing so hard.
and you were sure it was him.
I was absolutely positive. I don't forget people I've met. I don't forget people I've spent time with. I just don't.
And just to restate, because I think you affirmed this, but he used his real name.
Yes,
He calls himself Barack or Barry.
Barack. And so did the driver. And that's why at first when everybody was referring to him as Barry, I just didn't understand or catch on. Because like I said, I didn't know that much about it, other than the fact that, hey, you know, you hook up, you know, today it's Grindr. Back then it was, you know,
The limo driver.
yeah, a limo driver or a bartender, you know. You ask and somebody knows somebody or somebody doesn't.
Amazing. So you're sitting there in Mexico watching this, and you think, that's the guy I had sex with who smoked crack with me.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Like I said, I just started cracking up. I freaked out. I had even pointed out to some friends of mine that were at the house that night, and I told them, I said, you're not going to believe this. I said, I blew this guy twice, you know, and they just start cracking up. But that's the thing about me. I've never been in the closet. I've never hid. I mean, I'm always very direct and blunt. Yeah. And, you know, and I'm just like, this is unreal, you know, and I had no idea that he was going to run, you know, in 2008, but I was back from Mexico. But it was a strange feeling sitting there watching him walk across that stage and realizing who he was.
Oh. So what did you do? You said you reached out to the campaign?
Well, I didn't do anything in
just driving
2004,
home.
but when he
Nothing special.
Run for 2008.
Scanner's not working, so I'm listening to Tucker talk to this guy who blew Barack Obama.
Because I had seen a lot of these college kids talking about how thrilled they were, how there was a candidate who was completely honest about his entire life, his drug use, you know, what he did is when he was in school, you know, the constant back and forth. 1 minute is, yes, I did cocaine when I was younger, or no, I never did cocaine, but I smoked weed. So I just simply pointed out that all I was asking was, look, why don't you just simply come out and say, I did coke and I've done it as recently as 1999. You know, just tell the truth. Put it out there and be honest and let it stay as the truth rather than this back and forth. Never did hear anything back from them immediately.
Who did you reach out to? Do you remember?
I reached out to actually David Axelrod's office in Chicago. I'm trying to remember the letters because it was actually 3 letters.
And did you say I had sex with Barack Obama?
This is the interesting part. My first contact with the campaign never mentioned the sex whatsoever. That was actually brought to my attention by someone who eventually reached out to me in late 2007, claiming to be with the campaign, but wasn't with the campaign.
What do you mean that was pointed out to you? So you never told anyone in the Obama campaign you had sex with Barack
Not
Obama?
in 2007, no.
Interesting. But they knew?
Yep.
How? Who? Oh, that's weird.
I'm assuming Barack himself because the phone calls that I got in late 2007 came from a gentleman that I have repeatedly identified as Donald Young. And it was Donald Young who had mentioned to me that the campaign was not going to acknowledge the sex and the drug interaction. And I was somewhat taken back. because, like I said, I had never mentioned sex to the campaign at all at that point. I had in 2008, but I had not in 2008.
Okay, that is amazing, and I want to get to who Donald Young was in just a minute. But I apologize for that interview. But let me just ask the obvious question: was what was Obama like on crack?
Actually, and I hate to say this because some people are going to think I'm really crazy. I knew a lot of people that smoked it because I was in Miami in the early 80s when it became quite popular. Similar to a friend of mine that I knew in Miami, it's extremely high, calm, almost euphoric. And then as it starts to come down, you know, the twitching and the looking, anything that looks white sitting on the seat or the floor, you assume is another piece that fell off that, you know, you can pick up with smoke. But while he was high, pretty much the same.
Pretty controlled.
Pretty controlled, euphoric, talkative, but not really saying anything.
So it was like his presidency.
A lot like.
Was it your impression, and of course you would strictly speaking no, but was it your impression that this was the first time he'd ever smoked crack?
No. You don't, first of all, you don't buy crack, get in a limo, and have a pipe in your pocket if it's the first time you smoke crack. You just don't.
So, I've read about your story to the extent it's been written about, not very much. But I've never read that Donald Young, this man Donald Young, called you and told you that he knew you'd had sex with Barack Obama.
That was the contact in late 2007 that I had that originally came under the guise that they were part of the Obama campaign.
So who was Donald Young?
Donald Young was a choir director and a school teacher. He was the choir director at Jeremiah Wright's church in Chicago, the same church that Barack Obama went to. He was also very openly gay, black man, but very well respected.
Did you know him?
I had never met him. I had not even realized that the person who was communicating with me had been killed until a good 2 months after.
So I'm going to get to that. So Donald Young is the choir director at Jeremiah Wright's church.
Yes.
And is it publicly confirmed that he knew Barack Obama?
Oh, yes. Donald Young's own mother has repeatedly said that she feels that her son died to protect Barack Obama.
It's just interesting that Donald Young would have called you. He's not working directly for the campaign that we know of.
Exactly.
But somehow he has a copy of your letter. It sounds like maybe Donald Young was on keynote.
Somehow he has my phone number. Exactly. And that's exactly what it was. Because like I said, the first calls were, I was led to believe that he was with the campaign. The last conversation that I had with Donald Young, he had actually come clean and said that he had been asked to call me and that his job was to get as much information from me as far as who I had spoken to, who I had given him information to, and to get them to him. He had told me to be careful, to watch myself, and to understand that the Barack Obama campaign was not in any way, shape, or form going to acknowledge anything or come out about anything. And he had made it clear that he had known Barack for quite some time and had had an intimate relationship with Barack for quite some time.
He told you that?
Yep. And that's when I knew that I could at least trust what I was being told. Originally, I had made it clear I didn't feel comfortable with the phone call because something just didn't seem right. But after a couple of calls, it started to all fall into place. And I had said the same thing to myself.
Wait, so you didn't know Donald Young existed?
Nope.
It sounds like you're not very political anyway. You weren't.
I wasn't at the time.
And you were just annoyed that Obama was talking about cocaine and lying about it.
I was extremely annoyed.
But the sex part had nothing to do with it.
No,
And Donald Young, who you don't know, never heard of, calls up and says, by the way, I know you had sex with Barack Obama. I did.
Pretty much.
I mean, this is a longer conversation which we can have in a minute, but I mean, Obama has a wife and kids, and he's telling America what a great family man he is. Is that, maybe you've seen this a lot? What do you think of that?
Well, you know, in 2008, I made it clear that Obama was having marital problems in '99, and everybody in the world said that I was crazy, didn't know what I was talking about.
Hey, I'm the doctor. Yeah, I'm awake. Sorry.
Barack Obama comes out.
Just driving, listening to this Tucker interview with this guy who blew Obama.
In 1999, he and Michelle came very close to divorce.
Get a little bit of time on this channel.
15 years later, what I say is the truth, but 15 years
Trying to
earlier,
pause
I'm
it.
a
Won't
lawyer
let
and
me.
a fraud.
Okay. Not all. Shit. Sorry.